they're battling each other. You gotta look back at it when time passes and you look and you say, you said things that agitated each other to the point that you might have wanted to run into.
50 Cent just dropped eye-opening new details about the Tupac and Biggie cases, and it flips everything we thought we knew on its head. His Netflix series digs into shadowy alliances, industry pressure, and unheard audio tied to Keith D, with insiders saying the East-West feud wasn't random at all. It was business, money, and control playing out behind the scenes. Once those hidden recordings surfaced, the story stopped looking like chaos and started feeling carefully arranged. After nearly 3 decades of silence and unanswered questions, one of hip-hop's biggest power players is pulling back the curtain. Curtis 50 Cent Jackson isn't holding back as he dives into 2 of the most talked about unsolved cases in music history, breaking down how Tupac Shakur and the Notorious B.I.G, 2 giants at the top of their game, had their careers abruptly cut short.
The Life After Death, double CD dropping March 25th.
On December 2nd, 2025, 50 Cent released a bombshell Netflix docu-series that sent shockwaves through hip-hop and beyond. The series revisits key moments from 1996 and 1997 in Los Angeles, using fresh audio, insider claims, and industry context to reframe what really happened during one of rap's most intense eras. Tupac Shakur, the poetic revolutionary and voice of a generation, was pushed out of the spotlight after a Las Vegas incident.
No, you're back at your own hotel.
We're at the Luxor.
These weren't just rappers. They were cultural icons, speaking for millions, with influence that stretched far beyond music and shaped culture for decades. Real talk, fans flooded comments, Reddit threads, Discord servers, and group chats, trying to piece together what really happened on those nights. Was it local tensions, industry pressure, or powerful players pulling strings behind closed doors? The theories went wild, nonstop, and everywhere. Speculation stayed loud, but answers stayed slippery until now. Enter 50 Cent in executive producer mode, never dodging tough talk. His multi-part Netflix series pulls together insider accounts, unseen archives, and rare audio to map a tense era of hip-hop history, laying out a bold, eye-opening picture with real weight. The series features first-hand accounts from Kirk Burroughs, label co-founder Mark Curry, and Roxanne Johnson, Craig Mack's former wife.
Strong dude, yo. I know dude, you know what I'm saying?
Very
He's
strong.
real strong. So when it was like he got shot, I was just more like, again? You know what I'm saying? He always getting shot or shot at. He gonna pull through this one again, make a few records about it, and it's gonna be over, you know what I'm saying? But when he died, I was just like, whoa.
These aren't outsiders guessing. They were deep inside the industry, seeing the pressure, the rivalries, and the risky power plays up close. One of the wildest parts of the documentary breaks down how the East Coast and West Coast label rivalry grew into something much bigger. It suggests street organizations were quietly pulled into industry loyalty battles, turning music competition into a high-stakes chess game behind the scenes. This wasn't just lyrical back and forth or magazine drama. The series makes a strong case that these alliances shaped major turning points with long-lasting consequences for everyone involved. Kirk Burroughs, speaking with years of distance and clarity, delivers one of the most chilling takeaways. To keep the money machine moving, the series explains how Biggie was strongly pushed, some say pressured, to travel to Los Angeles to promote Life After Death, even though tensions were at their peak and the atmosphere was clearly unstable. According to insiders, this trip wasn't about comfort or caution, it was about schedules, visibility, and business priorities taking the lead.
Behind it. Because Frank was driving.
Through your head when you saw that.
They shoot my... That's, you know what I mean? They shoot, that's what we saying. Like, yo, they shooting the car. They shoot, you know, we telling Frank, like, yo, what the you know what I mean? It's going down.
Pause and really think about that. Multiple voices in the documentary say Biggie didn't want to go to LA. He read the room, felt the energy was off, and understood the risks involved. This wasn't reckless behavior. It was industry demands overriding common sense and basic safety considerations. Burroughs goes even further, suggesting that the industry's obsession with profit, numbers, and momentum created a perfect storm. In his view, the pressure to keep everything moving made that Los Angeles night unavoidable, raising heavy questions about accountability and responsibility. And here's where the series shifts into another gear. It doesn't rely only on memories or opinions. It introduces audio recordings connected to Dwayne Keith D. Davis. Essentially, it was a protected interview where individuals could speak more openly under legal safeguards. In these recordings, Davis gives a first-hand account of the night involving Tupac, and the details instantly became a major focus of the case as everything resurfaced years later. In the audio, he walks through what unfolded on September 7, 1996, laying out the timeline step by step. He explains that earlier that evening, tensions flared at the MGM Grand Casino involving Tupac and members of his circle, including Death Row Records CEO Suge Knight, after an intense confrontation with Orlando Anderson, who was later identified as Keith D's nephew.
That's the look on everybody's face. You know what I mean?
Did you have a gun on you?
Nobody had guns.
Nobody had.
This wasn't some random situation. According to the account, Anderson had been connected to a previous incident involving a death row associate. And when Tupac recognized him at the casino, emotions boiled over fast, pushing the situation into chaos. What Davis describes next is a retaliation plan taking shape. He claims that after the casino incident, several people regrouped with the intent to respond later that night. In a shocking turn, Davis claims they noticed Tupac's black BMW nearby, his presence still larger than life, full of energy and unmistakable charisma. According to his account, they maneuvered their vehicle alongside Tupac's car at a Las Vegas intersection, and this is where his story becomes extremely detailed and disturbing. Davis says that from inside the vehicle, an object was passed toward the back seat, and Anderson reportedly took control in that moment. What follows, according to Davis, was a sudden and irreversible escalation that left Tupac seriously injured and the situation spiraling out of control. The aftermath was devastating. Tupac suffered critical injuries, while Suge Knight, who was driving, was also hurt during the chaos. The other vehicle quickly fled the scene, disappearing into the night as everything unraveled. 6 days later, on September 13, 1996, Tupac Shakur passed away due to medical complications. A powerful voice was lost, a cultural movement shaken, and hip-hop was changed forever. The documentary makes it clear this wasn't some random chaos or street-level mess. What's presented feels deliberate, layered, and tied to a bigger pattern rooted in industry rivalries, territory clashes, and a toxic mix of ego, money, and power that defined that era of hip-hop. According to the series, what began as music competition slowly morphed into something way more serious. Artistic tension crossed a dangerous line, turning into real-world consequences that couldn't be undone. One night changed everything, and the fallout reshaped the culture forever. So let's rewind and break down that Las Vegas night, because the timeline matters. Understanding how things unfolded helps explain how an evening meant for celebration spiraled into one of the darkest chapters in music history. September 7th, 1996 started with huge energy. Mike Tyson was headlining a massive heavyweight championship at the MGM Grand, pulling in celebrities, big spenders, and industry heavyweights. Tupac Shakur attended alongside Suge Knight and members of the Outlaws, fully locked into what was supposed to be an unforgettable night. His rap crew was made up of childhood friends and family, people deeply loyal and always by his side. The fight itself ended fast. Tyson finished it in barely 2 minutes, but what happened afterward set everything in motion. As Tupac and his group moved through the MGM Grand Casino, Trevon Trey Lane, connected to Death Row, noticed Orlando Anderson in the crowd. This wasn't some random face. Earlier that year, Anderson had allegedly been tied to a heated incident involving a stolen Death Row medallion, an episode that had already stirred serious tension between rival circles connected to the music world. When Lane pointed Anderson out, signaling unresolved disrespect, things escalated instantly. Surveillance footage later reviewed in multiple investigations shows Tupac confronting Anderson first, setting off a sudden clash that pulled others in within seconds. Security rushed in and separated everyone, and both sides eventually went their own way. That public humiliation wasn't something Anderson was going to ignore, and the documentary makes it clear how fast things moved afterward. According to Keith D's own accounts, shared across a 2008 police interview, his later memoir, multiple media appearances, and testimony, the response was mobilized almost instantly after word spread about the MGM Grand incident. There was no long debate or cooling off period. The message, as it's described, was immediate and emotional. Someone from their circle had been embarrassed, and action was expected that very night. The speed of that reaction is one of the most unsettling details highlighted in the series. Idi Amin, a member of the Outlaws who was actually there, offers a perspective that hits hard. In interviews, he recalls driving just behind Tupac's BMW, feeling like it was supposed to be another regular night, heading to Club 662, ready to perform, party, and keep the momentum rolling. When Frank admitted he didn't have protection, after warnings from Las Vegas police about strict enforcement, Yaki Gaddafi became visibly shaken. In that moment, he seemed to grasp how exposed they really were. And the tension inside the car shifted fast. Here's the cruel irony of that night. The biggest rapper on the planet was moving through Las Vegas with limited protection, not because of carelessness, but because of legal concerns, police warnings, and decisions that seemed reasonable on their own. Together, though, they created a dangerous level of vulnerability that couldn't be ignored. Meanwhile, according to Keith D's account, another group was moving with clear purpose. They regrouped quickly after the earlier incident, focused and determined, setting themselves up near Club 662, where Tupac was expected to appear. After waiting for over an hour with no sign of him, they decided to move on, heading toward a nearby store. That's when fate stepped in. By chance or something darker, they noticed Tupac's black BMW nearby, his presence unmistakable even from a distance. What followed unfolded in seconds, catching everyone off guard and throwing the night into chaos. Idi Amin later recalled seeing sudden movement from the other vehicle and realizing instantly that something was very wrong. The Outlaws, riding behind Tupac, were completely unprepared, unable to react or shield their friend and leader in that moment. The BMW eventually came to a stop, and Suge Knight, despite being hurt himself, helped rush Tupac toward medical care before authorities took over. Tupac was taken to University Medical Center, where doctors worked tirelessly through multiple procedures, fighting to stabilize him. He was only 25 years old, yet his influence kept growing long after he was gone. Tupac left behind a powerful legacy, a body of work that shaped generations and created a space in hip-hop that has never truly been filled. The streets mourned, fans across the world were devastated, and inside the industry there was shock mixed with a quiet, unsettling fear. If someone as massive and high profile as Tupac could be taken out of the spotlight so suddenly, who was really safe? And according to the documentary, the fallout didn't stop there. It strongly suggests that what happened to Biggie 6 months later wasn't random. It was part of an escalating cycle that had already spun out of control. On March 9, 1997, Biggie was in Los Angeles for a Soul Train Music Awards after-party. Despite warnings, lingering tension between coasts, and everything that had already happened, album promotion pressures tied to life after death pulled him into an environment many felt was unstable. As he left the Peterson Automotive Museum in his SUV, another vehicle pulled alongside, and moments later, chaos erupted. Biggie was critically injured and rushed for emergency care, but he didn't make it. He was just 24 years old. The docuseries includes rare, grainy footage from the scene, showing confusion, flashing lights, and a stunned crowd trying to process yet another loss of a young cultural giant. The series also features archival clips of Valletta Wallace, Biggie's mother, who believed her son was caught in an ongoing power struggle fueled by industry rivalries that had gone way too far. According to multiple testimonies, these weren't isolated incidents. The documentary argues they were carefully planned events, tied to money, influence, and behind-the-scenes players with real power. Now this is where everything gets messy, controversial, and incredibly frustrating for anyone who's followed these cases for decades. Despite mountains of evidence, public statements, witness accounts, and years of investigation across multiple agencies, the Biggie case remains unresolved, and Tupac's case only saw its first arrest in 2023, nearly 30 years later. Let that really sink in. These weren't unknown figures, they were global cultural icons whose losses made international headlines, yet for decades, accountability seemed non-existent. That reality alone raises serious questions about how these investigations were handled and why answers took so long to surface. The documentary doesn't shy away from those hard questions. It digs into systemic issues, missed opportunities, and roadblocks that slowed progress from the very beginning. It paints a picture of investigations tangled in pressure, silence, and internal challenges that never fully cleared. In Tupac's case specifically, authorities in Las Vegas faced immediate resistance. Members of his circle were hesitant to cooperate, influenced by a long-standing street code that discourages speaking with law enforcement. Investigators weren't just dealing with cultural barriers. They also faced serious procedural breakdowns. Key leads weren't pushed hard enough, and the MGM Grand incident, which later appeared to be a clear trigger, wasn't connected early on in a way that could have sped things up. Reports about a white Cadillac leaving the scene didn't get the urgency they deserved. Even more troubling, some crucial witnesses never got the chance to fully speak. Yaki Gaddafi, who was riding directly behind Tupac and could have offered vital insight, was lost before providing a complete account, leaving a massive gap in the timeline. Biggie's case was even more tangled. The LAPD investigation unfolded during the height of the Rampart scandal, a period marked by exposed corruption and deep internal problems. Allegations surfaced about officers having inappropriate industry ties and connections to street groups, muddying the entire process. While never fully proven, claims that corrupt officials may have had knowledge of what happened refused to disappear. Retired Detective Russell Poole spent years chasing leads that pointed to high-level retaliation tied to industry power plays. His findings, later detailed in Labyrinth, painted a picture of obstruction and institutional failure that shocked many. The documentary doesn't dodge the long-running conspiracy theories that have surrounded these cases for years. There have been repeated claims connecting Sean Diddy Combs to both incidents, especially the situation involving Tupac. Keith D has publicly stated in interviews that money was allegedly discussed, even mentioning large figures tied to targeting Tupac and Suge Knight. That said, this is where things get split fast. Las Vegas authorities have clearly stated that Diddy is not a suspect, and he has consistently denied any involvement. This contrast has sharply divided public opinion and turned social media into a non-stop battleground of debate. Online reactions exploded. Many viewers praised 50 Cent for pulling together long-discussed accounts and forcing attention back onto cases they believe were ignored for years. On Platform X, fans have called the series a must-watch, saying it finally connects dots and exposes uncomfortable industry dynamics. But the backlash has been just as loud. Critics argue the series leans too hard into shock value, calling it one-sided and lacking solid new proof beyond testimonies that have circulated for years. Biggie's estate has pushed back strongly, labeling certain claims false and directly denying financial allegations. The criticism is that by zooming in on certain storylines and specific figures, the documentary may blur other key parts of these already complicated cases. Netflix has defended the project, saying it pulls from publicly available sources and first-hand accounts to shine light on events that stayed in the shadows for far too long. Even so, the platform openly admits much of what's presented remains speculative. The material leans heavily on testimony rather than physical proof, and viewers are encouraged to watch with context, caution, and critical thinking in mind. And here's the part that really tests people's patience. Even with Keith D's arrest and upcoming legal process, closure is far from guaranteed. His case has faced repeated delays, now pushed to February 9th, 2026, due to new material, witness issues, and legal complications. Davis has entered a not guilty plea and has recently claimed that some past statements were exaggerated, saying he was seeking attention and later disputing his own timeline. What once looked clear has become cloudy again. As for Biggie's case, progress feels even more distant. Despite decades of reviews and civil lawsuits filed by his family in the early 2000s alleging misconduct and hidden connections, the situation remains unresolved, keeping frustration and unanswered questions alive. Despite decades of investigative work and nonstop journalism, both cases remain officially unresolved. Key figures who could have helped clarify the truth are no longer around. Important opportunities were missed, and time itself has worn down leads, making real accountability feel farther away than ever. So, what are we supposed to take from 50 Cent's documentary, from all these testimonies, and from nearly 30 years of unanswered questions? A few hard truths stand out, and they're not easy to sit with. First, these cases expose major systemic failures, law enforcement breakdowns, industry pressure, and decision-making that put young artists in risky situations instead of protecting them. Business priorities clearly outweighed personal safety, and warning signs were ignored again and again. Second, the lack of resolution raises deeper questions about how cases tied to black artists and entertainers are handled in America. Would things have moved differently if the circumstances or the people involved were viewed differently? It's uncomfortable, but it's a conversation that can't be avoided. And third, these stories show the destructive impact of unchecked rivalry, ego, fame, and money. The East Coast-West Coast tension wasn't just headlines, it shaped behavior, expectations, and choices, creating an environment where conflict felt unavoidable and loyalty was constantly tested. As we wait for developments in the upcoming 2026 trial and look at the continued silence around Biggie's case, the reality is sobering. Full clarity may never come, but what does remain is the music, the influence, and the cultural impact that still shapes hip-hop today. If you found this breakdown interesting, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video. Check out the cards on your screen for more deep dives like this, and I'll see you on the next one.